I am Regina Carter Pride here with my interviewer. We are talking about the employees and soft skills. This is assignment 2, Business 520.
How can limited time impact the workplace?
Limited time can impact the workplace in two ways. It can have an advantage or a disadvantage. The advantages will be um, less stress, stronger morale. The employees would get a chance to refresh and less burnout. The disadvantages would be missed. It could be missed deadlines, missed appointments, a lack of focus from the employees, and workplace stress.
Can you think of an example of when you have been in this situation?
Yes, the example for me would be at a time when I worked for a bank, and each employee were given 60 loans that we had to go through in an 8-hour period. So it was very hard to get to each one of those loans. So what we did was work with the one who complained the most.
Did you read and adapt to the situation well?
Yes, we did, because what we did was the employees, the clients and customers who complained, we worked with those, and the rest we waited until the next day. So if the customer did not call in or did not check on the status of their loan, it just got pushed to the bottom of the pile, and we worked on the ones that um, to keep the confusion down and to keep the customers from calling in asking for the bosses.
How could you have read and adapted to it better?
I could adapt to it better by um, maybe starting a little earlier, or when the customers did call in, I could have explained to them um, the reason it was taking so long for their loan to be approved. And also, I could have gone through each file to see which is the oldest file and put that to the top, and made the calls from there.
Can you anticipate being in that situation again in the future?
No, the situation will be there, but I can handle it better by making sure that I go in date order, and when the customer calling in, just be transparent and let them know that I am working on that file, and not um, saying that I'm going to give them an answer in a certain day and not give it to them. As John always say, it's better to um, under promise and over deliver. So the way that I'll do that is by not um, allowing myself to work ahead of my dates.
When is that likely to happen?
Well, as more people begin to refinance loans for that bank, it's going to happen again. But um, if the management team could maybe hire more people, or um, make our day a little bit longer, like give us more hours.
What option will you have?
The options would be to deal with each customer's file as I get to it, and not procrastinate, and just get in there, hunker down, and get the job done.
How will you adapt?
I will adapt by making sure that I get to work on time. I start my work on time and handle each file as I get to it, which means that if I have to call a customer, I'll get that done and I will continue to work the files until each one is done.
How can too much work impact the workplace?
Too much work can impact the workplace because the employees will be stressed. It can cause them to have headaches. It can raise the blood pressure, heart disease. It can cause fatigue and exhaustion. And when an employee is feeling this way, it will not be good for the company.
Can you think of an example of when you have been in this situation?
Yes, of course. When I was in charge of operation called Overgoods, and I only had one employee, which was a very good employee. However, that employee had to be at work for more than 8 hours, and the overgoods, which is items that had come out of a delivery box, was all put in totes and just stored in a specific area. Well, this employee had a hard time matching up the overgoods, and it was just too much work for one person. But the job only called for one person at that time, and I had to get the other departments involved because other managers and supervisors was responsible for the loaders and unloaders. So we had to get with them to make sure that each box was handled correctly so that they could eliminate some of these old goods.
Did you read and adapt to the situation well?
Yes, because it was only one employee, and that one employee was grateful just to have a job. So I helped work with her, and we got the job done.
How could you have read and adapted to it better?
By seeing if the company would allow more employees and maybe borrow some from another area.
Can you anticipate being in that situation again in the future?
Yes, I think the situation will always be there, but we'll just take it one day at a time, piece by piece.
When is that likely to happen?
When we are not um, getting the other um, departments involved in keeping these overgoods and damages together.
What option will you have?
Maybe either extending the hours of the one employee or getting other employees to fill in until the work is caught up.
How will you adapt?
By making my employee feels um, welcome and feel like I'm helping her by making sure that other departments send people to fill in.
How can other people not doing their part impact the workplace?
Well, if other employees don't do their part, it would make the employees that would want to do their part disgruntled, and it will cause friction between the employees and cause the work not to get done correctly or at all.
Can you think of an example of when you have been in this situation?
Yes, a one employee often called in to work. It was only four employees in that position, and one employee always called in all of her leave or sick days, which required the other employees to have to pitch in and get all of the work done.
Did you read and adapt to the situation well?
Yes, I did adapt to the situation, and the other employees adapted to that situation at also. And what we did was eventually put that employee on a suspension, on notice that if she didn't fulfill the part of her job, then she would get suspended. And this helped get her back on track.
How could you have read and adapted to it better?
By talking to that one employee before it happened, as she used her sick days, I should have talked with her and made sure that she knew that her job was as important as everyone else and that she needed to pitch in and do her part.
Can you anticipate being in that situation again in the future?
Yes, it's always an impact on others when one person don't do what they're supposed to. So yes, in the future that may happen again, and if it does, I will just sit down with that person, connect with them, and tell them what they need to do to help out the team.
When is that likely to happen?
When an employee decide that they want to call in and take all of their time more than come to work.
What options will you have?
The options I would have is to get rid of the employee, retrain the employee, or to just have one-on-one conversations with her on a daily basis.
How will you adapt?
By sitting down with the employee and connecting with her and letting her know how important it is to come to work and to do her part.
How can conflicts between and among employees impact the workplace?
When other people have conflict between each other, it can cause the work not to get done. It can cause customers to feel the effect of the employees having conflict with each other. And it can also reduce the amount of work that gets put out on a daily basis.
Can you think of an example of when you have been in this situation?
Yes, several employees did not get along with one other employee in the office, and that employee ended up, um, making noise and doing things that distracted the other workers.
Did you read and adapt to the situation well?
Yes, by removing that employee from that particular area and getting her set up in another work area where she could be alone and adjust to the job she needed to do.
Could you have read and adapted to it better?
Yes, I could have let her know um, the impact of what she was doing and, keeping a record of how she was performing.